A guy pulled into my shop last week towing a boat behind a brand new $79,000 pickup. And the whole truck was rattling over a check engine light that turned out to be a $2,800 emission sensor. He asked me what I would buy if I wanted the same leather seats and the same towing numbers for a fraction of the price. I walked him over to a truck parked in my customer lot that had cost $11,000 and still had heated and cooled seats, a factory navigation screen, and a V8 that will flat out outlive both of us. Today I am showing you 5 luxury trucks that depreciated harder than almost anything else on 4 wheels, and why that depreciation is the best gift the used market has ever handed you. I am going deepest on number 1 because it is the one I would buy myself tomorrow. Number 5. The Lincoln Mark LT from 2006 to 2008. Nobody remembers the Mark LT existed, and that's exactly the point. Lincoln took the F-150 platform, wrapped it in chrome, stitched leather everywhere a hand could touch, and priced it above $46,000 when new. It sold in tiny numbers, got discontinued after 2008, and quietly vanished from public memory. Meanwhile, it's sitting under the hood of the same 5.4-liter Triton 5.8 that powered hundreds of thousands of contractor spec F-150s across the same era. That's the engine you want. It's a 2-valve or 3-valve iron block V8, depending on year, naturally aspirated, no turbo to eventually fail, and it's been documented running well past 200,000 miles in fleet trucks that were worked far harder than any luxury truck ever will be. A clean 2006 or 2007 Mark LT with 100,000 to 130,000 miles typically sells for $7,000 to $10,000 right now. Compare that to a same-era Cadillac Escalade EXT, which runs the same basic hardware philosophy and still commands $14,000 to $18,000 purely on badge recognition. You're getting quilted leather, heated front and rear seats, a power moonroof, and a chrome running board package that cost Lincoln a fortune to produce for the price of a base trim work truck. The one thing to know on the 3-valve version used in later Mark LTs is a documented issue with spark plugs seizing in the aluminum heads if they weren't replaced on schedule, which can turn a routine maintenance job into an expensive extraction. If you're shopping, ask directly whether the plugs have been changed and budget for it proactively if there's no record. Check the intake manifold gasket for coolant seepage, since that's a common wear item on this engine family by 100,000 miles and runs a few $100s to address. Inspect the running boards and rocker panels for rust if the truck came from a salt state, since the body will show its age well before the drivetrain does. This is the truck for someone who wants to look like they spent 40 grand while actually spending 10. Number 4. The GMC Sierra Denali from 2007 to 2013. The Denali trim was GM's answer to needing something to compete with Cadillac's own truck lineup, and it stuffed nearly every luxury feature imaginable into a working Silverado platform. Heated and ventilated leather, a premium Bose audio system, automatic all-wheel drive on many models, and a 6.2-liter Vortec V8 producing well over 400 horsepower in later years. That engine is part of the same LS-based small block family that's earned a reputation for running past 300,000 miles with nothing more than fluids and brakes. A 2010 to 2012 Sierra Denali with 100,000 to 140,000 miles typically sells for $12,000 to $16,000 today, which sounds like real money, until you compare it to a same-era Ford F-150 Platinum or Ram Laramie Longhorn, both of which command $18,000 to $24,000 for similar mileage despite running less proven drivetrains. The Denali gets overlooked because GMC as a brand doesn't carry the same cachet as Cadillac or Lincoln, even though mechanically it's built on the exact same bones as the Chevy Tahoe, and Silverado platforms mechanics trust every single day. When you're shopping, check for transmission shudder between 40 and 60 miles per hour, which usually points to fluid that's overdue for a change and is a cheap fix if caught early. Inspect the automatic four-wheel drive transfer case for any grinding or hesitation when it engages, since that system sees more use on Denalis than base trims because owners actually leave it in auto mode in bad weather. Look at the heated seat elements, since they're known to fail over time on higher mileage examples. And while it's not a mechanical concern, it's a real comfort feature you're paying for. And always check the exhaust manifold bolts on the 6.2 liter, since they're prone to loosening and can produce a ticking noise that sounds worse than it is, but is worth having tightened. Number 3. The Ram 1500 Laramie Longhorn from 2011 to 2016. Ram built the Laramie Longhorn to compete directly with the King Ranch trim from Ford, and they did not hold back. Real wood trim, saddle brown leather with contrast stitching, a factory navigation system, and under the hood, the 5.7-liter Hemi Vi8, producing 390 to 395 horsepower depending on the year. The Hemi is one of the most proven pushrod V8 engines Chrysler has ever built, sharing its architecture with the same engine found in the Dodge Charger and Durango. It is naturally aspirated, uses a timing chain rather than a belt, and has a well-documented track record of clearing 200,000 miles with routine maintenance. A 2013 to 2015 Laramie Longhorn with 90,000 to 120,000 miles sells for $16,000 to $21,000 right now, which represents a massive drop from an original manufacturer's suggested retail price that often crossed $50,000 once options were added. The one thing worth knowing about this generation Hemi is the multi-displacement system, which shuts down 4 cylinders under light load to save fuel and has been known to cause lifter tick, or, in worse cases, camshaft lobe wear, if oil changes were neglected. This is not a reason to avoid the truck, but it is a reason to insist on full service records, since a Hemi maintained on schedule will run for hundreds of thousands of miles, while one that had oil changes stretched will show problems by 100,000 miles. When inspecting one, listen carefully for a ticking noise on cold start that persists after the engine warms up, which can indicate the lifter issue mentioned above and is worth having a mechanic scope before you buy. Check the exhaust manifold bolts here too, since Chrysler's V8 engines share the same tendency toward loosening bolts as GM's engines. Inspect the leather seats for cracking, especially on trucks that spent time in hot climates, since the saddle leather on Longhorn trims is beautiful, but not immune to sun damage. And test the four-wheel drive transfer case in a parking lot, listening for any clunking that suggests deferred maintenance on the front differential. Number 2. The Cadillac Escalade EXT from 2007 to 2013. This is the truck that made the biggest cultural splash of anything on this list, and it has also lost more of its value than almost anything else with a Cadillac badge on it. The Escalade EXT was essentially a Chevrolet Avalanche wearing a full Cadillac interior, and underneath the hood sits the 6.2-liter L94 V8, producing 403 horsepower, the same fundamental architecture found in the Corvette and Camaro SS of the same era. Detuned slightly for truck duty but sharing the same aluminum block and proven bottom end. Original MSRP on a loaded Escalade EXT easily crossed $60,000. Today a 2010 to 2012 example with 90,000 to 120,000 miles typically sells for $14,000 to $19,000. An enormous drop for a vehicle that still has some of the most luxurious factory seats General Motors has ever installed, along with a mid-gate cargo system that lets the bed extend into the cabin, a feature nothing else in this segment offers. Repair costs on the drivetrain itself are reasonable because parts commonality with the rest of General Motors' truck and SUV lineup is massive, meaning a water pump or alternator costs a fraction of what the same job runs on a European luxury vehicle. The things to check are mostly cosmetic and electrical rather than mechanical. Test every seat function, since the multi-way power seats with heating and cooling are known to develop motor issues over time. And while not expensive individually, they add up if several have failed. Check the air suspension if the truck has it, since replacement air springs run several $100s each, and it's common negotiating leverage if they're sagging. Inspect the chrome cladding and running boards for pitting, since these trucks were often driven in salt states by owners who valued the truck for style over substance and didn't always keep up with washing the undercarriage. Mechanically, this is one of the most dependable V8 engines GM has ever produced, and it's sitting there for less than half of what a comparable Ford or Ram luxury trim commands. Number 1. The Ford F-150 Platinum from 2011 to 2014 with the 5.0-liter Coyote 5.8. This is the one I would buy without hesitation, and the reason comes down to a single decision Ford made that most people never think about. When the Platinum trim launched, buyers had a choice between the twin-turbo EcoBoost V6 and the naturally aspirated 5.0-liter Coyote V8. Everyone chased the EcoBoost for the horsepower numbers and the technology appeal. That obsession is exactly why the V8 Platinum trucks are sitting on lots today, priced like base XLTS, while offering full luxury equipment and a drivetrain with dramatically less complexity to eventually fail. The Coyote 5.0 is a dual overhead cam V8, producing 360 to 385 horsepower, depending on the year. Naturally aspirated with no turbochargers that will eventually need replacement, no intercooler plumbing to develop leaks, and none of the direct injection carbon buildup concerns that come with the EcoBoost port and direct dual injection system. It runs a timing chain designed to last the life of the engine and pairs with a conventional 6-speed automatic that Ford refined across years of production before eventually moving to a 10-speed. This is fundamentally the same engine family closely related to the one found in the Mustang GT of the same era. An engine enthusiasts trust, enough to modify and track without hesitation. A 2012 to 2014 F-150 Platinum with the 5.0 V8 and 90,000 to 120,000 miles sells for $15,000 to $20,000 right now. Compare that to an EcoBoost equipped Platinum from the same years, which commands a similar or even higher price despite carrying more mechanical complexity and, on early EcoBoost examples, documented issues with carbon buildup on the intake valves that eventually requires a walnut blasting service costing $500 to $800 to correct. You are paying the same money or less for the engine that's simpler, cheaper to maintain long-term, and has a longer track record of high mileage reliability.
Platinum trim itself brought heated and cooled leather seats, real wood and aluminum trim accents, a power running board option, and one of the nicest factory interiors Ford has ever built into a pickup. When shopping, check for the water pump, which on these Coyote engines is driven internally by the timing chain, and if it fails, requires significant labor to access. So ask whether it's ever been serviced on a higher mileage example. Inspect the door seals and running boards for wear, since Platinum trucks were often used as daily drivers with more in and out use than typical work trucks. Check the transmission for hard shifting between second and third gear, a known but inexpensive fix on the 6-speed automatic used in these years. And always verify service records for oil changes, since the Coyote 5.8, like most high-revving aluminum engines, rewards consistent maintenance with genuinely remarkable longevity. So there it is. 5 luxury trucks that the market has punished with depreciation most vehicles never recover from. The Lincoln Mark LT, hiding a proven Ford V8 under quilted leather nobody remembers exists. The GMC Sierra Denali, running the same trusted small block architecture as trucks mechanics recommend every day. The Ram Laramie Longhorn with real wood trim, and a Hemi that will run for decades if it's maintained on schedule. The Cadillac Escalade EXT wearing a Corvette adjacent V8 under a body style nothing else replicates. And the Ford F-150 Platinum with the Coyote V8, the single smartest luxury truck purchase on the used market today. You now know 5 trucks you can buy for a fraction of their original price that will outlast and outperform what most people are financing new. If this kind of straight talk helps you shop smarter, hit subscribe, because I've got more videos coming on the vehicles dealerships hope you never think to compare. Like the video if it helped. Drive safe, take care of whatever you're driving, and I'll see you in the next one.